Anthony, I'll start with you. Why would he want to play for the Giants? What does he love about the Giants? We're 3-14. We have been a train wreck for years. What is there to love about coming here? Why do you think he said that? I have my opinion, but I want to hear you guys.
He specifically mentioned Brian Daboll and his kind of relationship that he has with him and his admiration for him. And I know that a lot of Giants fans have soured on Brian Daboll after the last 2 seasons, and it's understandable, but I still think that he's held in high regard across the NFL. I think there are a lot of players who, from time in Buffalo or even elsewhere in the league, Daboll's been all over the place, and he's met a lot of players, and he's got a really good reputation among them. So I know, again, Giants locker room maybe looks like a mess sometimes, but who knows what the true cause of that really is. Maybe it's just not enough locker room leaders. I'll say I don't think that the locker room ever really soured on Brian Daboll over the last couple of years. So I think that's the big selling point for Jameis Winston. It's also the selling point that I thought there would be for if we were talking about Justin Fields, which I think we discussed this a few weeks ago. Justin Fields would probably want to be coached by a Brian Daboll, knowing that he has that upside. And maybe if he gets a good coach to unlock it, and maybe Jameis Winston feels the same way. Jameis Winston is I think 31 years old. Quarterbacks play until they're like 40. So, I mean, maybe there is still upside in Jameis Winston that he thinks could be unlocked by the right coach. Maybe that's what he sees in Brian Daboll. And Brian Daboll has a bit of an offense where sometimes he wants those quarterbacks to take those shots and those chances and push the ball downfield. And obviously we know that Jameis Winston loves to do that. He loves to force the ball and throw it downfield. Obviously it's a double-edged sword. Sometimes it creates big plays. Sometimes it creates big turnovers. But you know what? I really want to see a quarterback that isn't afraid of that anymore, because we were just talking about Eli Manning. He led the NFL in interceptions 3 times. That's one of the knocks that people have against him for getting into the Hall of Fame. Over the last few years, Giants quarterbacks have been way too afraid to turn over the ball, and I'm sick and tired of it. They play so scared and conservative. They don't open up the playbook at all because the quarterbacks aren't willing to push the ball downfield. You don't get certain touchdowns that Eli Manning had throughout his career without taking chances and throwing interceptions. Tired of watching the Giants quarterbacks be afraid to throw interceptions. So outside of why Jameis Winston might want to be with the New York Giants, I want him with the New York Giants because I know he'll be fun to watch. And this is probably a rebuilding year anyway. And he's a great locker room leader. And again, he will push the ball downfield. I always, whenever I have this conversation, whether I was having it about how Drew Lock suddenly just became so aware and so careful with the football during this season, wasn't throwing it downfield like we expected him to be. Think back to that season. I think it was 2013. Eli Manning at home. He went for a bunch of yards. I think the Giants ended up losing this game, 4th quarter comeback by the Seahawks, whatever. But that game against the Seahawks was prime Legion of Boom Seahawks. Eli Manning up against his own 20-yard line, just hitches forward, launches that thing downfield. Who's in coverage? Double coverage, Richard Sherman and Cam Chancellor. The ball gets batted around, and Victor Cruz ends up one-handing it, taking it to the house 80 yards. Eli Manning threw that ball against 2 of the best defensive backs in football, just gave his receiver a chance. The Giants don't take those chances anymore. Their quarterbacks, Daniel Jones, Drew Lock, Tim Boyle, all of them have been too afraid. Tommy DeVito have all been afraid to take those chances. And yes, that likely should have been an interception, that ball that Eli Manning threw. Most of the time it is, but sometimes it's not. Sometimes it's an 80-yard touchdown. And the Giants haven't taken those chances in years. So I want to see exactly the David Tyree catch high over the middle. It's a cardinal sin. He made it anyway. And look at it's a historic play. So I want to see a Giants quarterback that actually takes those chances because, yes, oftentimes it's a pick. Sometimes it's a big touchdown or a big play. So bring me Jameis Winston. I think he would really change the trajectory of this Giants offense. And I think a guy like Malik Neighbors, who just wants an opportunity to go get the ball, would really love to play with Jameis Winston. And again, can't stress enough, great locker room presence. So I rest my case there. I really think Jameis Winston would be a great signing for the New York Giants.
As they say, Anthony, scared money don't make no money. Scared money don't make no money. This is why I want Cameron Ward, because I feel like Cameron Ward is also a risk taker. And like you mentioned, we've been scared to throw the football. The Giants have thrown, when Chris and I would call these games, I'm sitting there going, all these passes seem like they're such high risk, low reward. These little 4-yard ins and posts and stick patterns into double coverage. Like even if you catch it, it's 2nd and 6, but you got 2 guys there. If it gets batted up in the air, it's easily intercepted. So I'm with you. Take chances. You know, what do you got to lose? You know, so what? We've been losing. You got nothing to lose at this point. Chris, why do you think James?
I remember people were asking me, like, I don't know, with 3 or 4 weeks to go in the season, which free agent quarterback, when I looked at the list, do I think makes the most sense for the Giants? And I said Jameis Winston, because I don't think his market's going to be very high. He's not going to make a whole lot of money. He's a perfect veteran quarterback to bring in. He's very well liked, right? People love his personality. I see the appeal for him outside of just the Brian Daboll thing. Like, this is a guy that clearly, I think, is probably going to have a career after football, in the media. Like he's got an unbelievable personality, right? So I think he could view New York as an appeal in that way as well. And I think for Jameis Winston, I kind of view it from the same light as Kurt Warner probably did when he was just not comparing Jameis Winston to Kurt Warner. That's ridiculous. But I think it's a similar situation that Kurt Warner had when he came here to try to start to get a resurgence for his career.